Well, it's the Ducks here again from Ducks Mechanical. Had a good night's sleep. Got lots to do, and I said I'd do this primary line up, show you how to do it a different way other than the manual. So in the manual, it gives you, I've seen a couple of ways to doing them, and I just went and had another look at the manuals, how they say to do it, and you've got to be good with your math, and you've got to have a couple of good measuring things, but basically, one of them is really hard. It's like measure back from the end of the rotor to here, and then you measure off something over there, and you take two away from the other, and it tells you mathematically how big this spacer needs to be in. And this is what we're talking about today, is these spacers, how to line your bike, this front drive sprocket with these spacers, putting them in here and working out if it's too much or too little. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've said it before, a lot of bikes come into here and you can see the owner's done it or somebody else has done it, and it's not right. And there's a tendency in the motorcycle world, even in a lot of shops, it's just, oh, that's what was in it, that'll be fine. And it's not. You've got to actually check every time you have all of this out, or you change anything, you put a new bearing in, whatever you do, it's got to be checked. It's not good enough just to go, oh yeah, it's that'll be close enough because that's the way it was. The problem is with that is that quite often they're not right, so the problem's there. And so just to be clear, inside the side of these Harleys there's this big primary drive chain, and this is a double link chain, and the front sprocket in the front up here and the back one, and they've got to be aligned in like a gun. If the sprockets aren't in line, the chain will be running diagonally, and if the chain is running diagonally, the drive. So if the front sprocket is not in line with the rear, what happens is the side of the sprocket, whichever way the chain is out of alignment, it will just be driving off one side of the primary chain, and then the primary chain gets excessive wear on one side. So it is quite critical to get this right, and it's quite critical to check. So without further ado, if you can imagine that the chain is in there, one way that they say to do it is you get your ruler like so, and your verniers like so. You zero your verniers and you measure in here to the side of the chain. I'll come down a bit because the other day I couldn't take it. You measure in here to the side of the chain, and then you go over here to the gearbox and you measure there as far as you can with the chain. And then if the measurement is not the same, you increase or decrease this until, I'll say again, you increase the washers on here like so, until you get those measurements the same, or you take them off. So Yeah, and you take them off. And it's very time consuming, and that's why a lot of people don't do it. And if they do it, they find that there's a problem, then they probably don't actually realign it because they haven't calculated in for an hour and a half dicking around with it if it's wrong. So there's two things there. They either check and it's, it's rough enough. I think in one book it was saying 0.76, which is within, I think it was millimeters, so that's just under a mil of tolerance. But the problem with the way that they're saying for you to do it is another problem is actually this, is that the chain will actually go from side to side more than a mil. So it's needless to say, as far as I'm concerned, it's all pretty bloody miss and hit and miss. And then mine got up to where it looked like the other day 11.5, and there was just so many washes. It's just like, nah, I made a new one. So here's the new one I've made. This is the new one I've made, and I'm going to test it today to see if it's still on the money, and if it's not on the money, I can put it down and put it in the lathe and machine it off. So another point that I wanted to make is this one the other day when we had the video about machining both sides. It had been through the machine and it's perfectly square, flat I should say, parallel, yeah, but anyway, the outside of it was so out of whack that I put it in the lathe and spun it, and now I've found that even the inside of these, there's quite a bit of movement, and actually that one's not too bad. That's a good one, but I did have one the other day, like this is one, and you'll see it. Oh no, it's always the way, isn't it? You try to show somebody something and it's baggy. So one of these was bagging around. Oh, that one, see? And that's just too excessive because it's going to sit down on one side. So when it's done up, that's going to be too much weight on one side, and it will send a vibration through the engine. Lots of guys don't think it's important, but it really is. So I've made the new one. I've made it with the tightest tolerance, within 0.5, and you can see it's just got a little bit of movement there, and I'm pretty sure when the crank swells a little bit when it runs, it'll be tight, and then that goes on there like so. So I was going to show you an example of how I do it when the washer's wrong, but I think I'll try and do it just with this washer so you can see, and it's either going to be on the money or it's not, and I'll have to skim a bit more off. I'm going to have problems trying to show you how I do it and hold the camera. Once again, if it's no good, I'll get the other half to give me a hand with it. Anyway, without further ado, we'll get on to it. So to be clear, I've already done this engine already in this method, and I had all these washers. There was quite a few washers, and then I got it so it was lining up straight, and then I pulled them all off, and then I measured the thickness of all those washers with my verniers, right? And then it said, right, it needed to be 11.5, and then I made that washer there out of a bit of high tensile plate for long lasting, and I don't have to worry about it wearing out or anything. Just a bit harder because these other things what bolt up to it's quite hard as well. So let's get on with it. So that goes on there. Oh, the other thing is that this method is done before you actually put the chain on, obviously, because the chain's not on. The clutch you put on, what I do is I just do rattle gun it on just with a light rattle gun, or if I didn't have a rattle gun, I'd just hold the clutch by my hand and do it up with a socket and a bar just till it's firm. It doesn't need to be up to torque pressure. It's just firm is enough. So that goes on there. Make sure there's no crap in there. That goes on there. That goes on here. Goes on here. And then I just put this on here. And then so I'm going to make a point here. Rattle guns. There's another ear ratchets also. Yeah. Countries have got different names. Here we call it a rattle gun. These are for pulling stuff apart. They're not for putting stuff together. But in this case, I've just got to use it lightly because I don't want to be here all day winding in and winding out this bloody nut to show you something. So put it on the right way would be a help. You always start the bolt first. You never ever start the bolt without. Right, that's going to be tight enough for what we want to do. Right, the next thing you need a nice straight edge. Right, now I've got this. I've had it for 20 odd years. I can't even remember who gave it to me. I think it was one of the brothers. I'm not sure. I picked it up from somewhere. What it is a blade out of a planer, and a planer what they use in a factory like for planing wood for timber, and these blades are perfectly flat and they're perfectly square. And if they get too damaged, you can see that how it's perfectly flat. If they get too damaged, they have to throw them out and put a new set in. So if you know someone, this one is, Jesus, it's 300 long. It needs to be 300 long. And the other thing what I like about it is that it's pointed here, so it actually makes it easier to go drop into the back of the clutch beside the cog, and you will see that. Now I'm going to take you over to the floor and show you something on the floor. So here is a drawing, a basic drawing. This is the engine and the transmission. This is the sprocket on the back. I've drawn it as a square, and the sprocket on the front, right? And this here, this is the spacer that we'll put in or out. Well, I've made a spacer 12.5, 11.5, and it's too big. And what we're going to do is we put this in here and we hold it by hand on the front side of the sprocket, and then we look at the back and we see where it's touching at the back on the back sprocket. So if there's a gap between here and here of 2 mils, then we know that this sprocket has to come out 2 mils to line up to their back there. Then we find the appropriate washer and we put it in. And vice versa, if we put that in there and it lines up and it's too close and it's actually hitting it, and you can actually, when this is on the sprocket, you can actually feel when it's sitting flat on the sprocket. And if you can't, I mean, you can feel it, and when it comes up, it'll actually come down and it'll try and hit the top of the tooth or something, and then you know you need to add more in. So, hopefully that makes sense. And this is what I'm going to do now, right? And I'll try and hold the phone in there. So we've got our clean, straight blade, and it just goes in there like so, and it sits on that face. It sits on that face there, and all I do is I hold it in there. It's got a nice machine face. I might even take that off and show you actually. Just to be anal, so it's clear. So you see this face here has been machined perfectly flat. And what we're going to do is we're going to sit this across the flat of it, you see, like so, right? And we'll hold it in there, and that's going to point to where it lines up on the back, you see? And that'll show us basically. And then we just look at the gap and we go, oh yeah, we need a 2 mil washer. Oh yeah, we need whatever, okay? And there's different sizes of washers you can get. So we'll just quickly put that back on, and then I'll show you. I think the point that I've done is quite clear actually, other than you see me do it. And then of course, once you work out the appropriate spacer, then you take them both off and put the chain on and put it together and torque it up, and job's done, and you know it's absolutely on the money, you know. So right, and this is going to be a telltale for me, because it's going to be so on the money or it's not. Maybe I've gone the wrong way, you never know. Look, I make mistakes, but the difference with me with a lot of other people is I own my mistakes, and I don't let people pay for them again. And then I look in there, like that. Right. Now, and this is why it's so critical to do the measurements. Okay. Now, I'm going to try and hold the camera in there, just to show you what I'm on about. So and you can see, see how that's just going down. Now I'm looking in there, and to me, I've got to take, I wish I could, I wonder if that'll just, Jesus, I don't know if I can. It's trying to focus to the one up above it, so. Right, let's see. Maybe it'll. Anyway, can you see the gap there between the drive sprocket and the drive, right? So it looks like there's a gap, see? So I'm going to, when I get off this now, I think that's about 2 mil. I need to take that off. And then I'll make sure I'm in the shop. So I'll take that off now. I'll check it again because I can't, it's very hard to do that with, like I said, I'll check it, check the dimension, and then if it looks like 2 mil, I'll take 2 mil off, put it back in and check it again. And if it's down to, like it said in the manual, I just read it before, it said 0.75. If I can get it down to like 0.5 or less, which is half a mil gap between that sprocket, it is on the money. And that, so I've got 11.5 mil spacer now. So to me, it's looking like I need to machine 2 mil off that and bring it back to 9.5, which sounds better to me because it looks, this is too big a spacer. Anyway, feel like I'm prattling on and I see the time's getting up. So if this information is helpful, I hope it is. You can use other pieces of steel. This is the good thing about these things is that this is a stainless steel. I think it's stainless steel, but it's bloody hard and it's really sharp and it's quite hard to bend. You could get away with a piece of flat bar or something until you got something a bit more. Yeah, see, so this is just over 4 mil. What's this? Yeah, it's about 4 mil thick. You don't want it any thicker than that. And it's about, and it is about just over, it's 22 millimeters wide. So you could get away with a nice bit of aluminium or something like that. Needs to be bright so you can see the gap easily. Anyway, I hope you guys and girls enjoy this. I did have a funny story, but it's just going to drag it all out. You guys some of you are already bored to tears. And it's Friday. Woohoo! Beer day! All right, have a good one.